Hi! Today I'll show you how to deploy a Streamlit app on Google Cloud Run. We will also configure a basic CI/CD so that your code will be built and deployed automatically after pushing to a branch. The services we are going to use are Cloud Run, Artifact Registry and Cloud Build. Some of the prerequisites are access to Google Cloud Project with billing enabled, gcloud and Docker installed on your system, and of course a Streamlit app. I have my application source code here. It consists of main.py, requirements.txt, and some images. To deploy an app to Google Cloud Run, first we need to containerize it. For that we're gonna need a Docker file. Let's specify a basic Docker file configuration. Here, we specify the base Docker image. Workdir sets the working directory inside the container. Let it be /app. Copy copies file from your local machine to the container. Run can execute commands within the container. In this case, it's installing dependencies from requirements.txt file. Expose exposes the port your Streamlit app will run on. We can set it to 8080. cmd defines the command to run your Streamlit app. Our main file is called main.py. We can also specify a port, server address, and disable CORS. We can now build this image locally by running docker build and tag for our image. Let it be Streamlit app. We need a dot here as we are in the same directory as our Docker file. For now, this image only exists locally. What we want is to push it to Google Cloud. Let's start with creating an artifact registry repository, where we can store our Docker images. First, we should enable the API, if you never used it before. Now we can create a repository. Let's do it by gcloud, artifacts, repositories, create, and name our repository. It can be something like app, images, repo. Let's specify the format, which should be Docker. And the location, for me it can be US Central 1. What we also need is to configure Docker to use the repository in the correct region. We can do it by gcloud auth configure docker, and here let's specify the URL like this, but change it to your region that you are actually using. For me it's US Central 1 and docker pkg dev. It will ask you about confirmation. Now we need to construct the tag for our image. For convenience, let's export it as an environment variable because we will repeat it many times. Let's call it tag, and it should look like the URL we just specified before. Docker pkg.dev. Here, project ID. Here the repository name that we just created. It will be app, images, repo, and we can call our app, for example, Streamlit app. Let's check it out. Now let's tag our local image with this new tag. We can just try to push this image to our repository in cloud. Only one command left, and it is the actual deployment. Let's run gcloud run deploy Streamlit app, specify the image, which is our tag. region where we want to deploy that. And let's allow unauthenticated invocations. This is needed as we want our app to be public for everyone, at least for now. The deployment was successful. We can now go to Cloud Run and open our app. The app is deployed successfully at this point, but we can also stay a little bit longer and create a configuration for Cloud Build. For that, we're gonna need one additional file, and it is cloudbuild.yaml. We can define our steps in the following sequence. First step is building an image, as we just did manually. These are our arguments. We will substitute the tag argument to this command. Next is pushing the image. And deploying to Cloud Run. We set the same parameters as before. To substitute the arguments, we can specify it like this. Now, before we configure a trigger, we can manually trigger the build by running one command instead of 3 as before. We can do it by typing gcloud build submit. And the app was redeployed. We can also check the build history by going to the Cloud Build. To make it even more automatic, we can go to Triggers and create a trigger. Let's call it test trigger and make sure push to a branch is checked. Let's connect new repository. If you use GitHub, you will need to authenticate to GitHub. Select a branch. Push to this branch will result in triggering the build. For the configuration, we can specify auto-detect if our file is named cloudbuild.yaml, and that's the case. Otherwise, we can also set it explicitly, or even edit it in the UI. Let's set the right service account and hit create, and it's done.